everyone. I hope everyone had a great long weekend. And I'm Nicole Testa Boston, the Deputy Director of the FIATech Consortium. And on behalf of all of us at FIATech, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for what marks our 82nd live webinar. Today we have an exciting hour set aside to discuss block success at BIM for facilities management, and for which they were recognized in March with a SETI Award in the Lifecycle Data Management and Information Integration category for this achievement. But before we get started with the presentation, I'd first like to review how to use the GoToMeeting system to optimize your experience today. If this is your first time using the system, you'll notice that you have a control panel on your screen. If you'd like to minimize that and get that out of the way, you can click on the orange arrow at the top to minimize it. And if at any time you want to bring it back up, you click on the arrow and it will maximize, provided there's enough space on your desktop. That is unique to you, so you can move it around at your discretion. There's also, because of the number of individuals on the call, mute setting as the default. So we do encourage and welcome you to ask questions or further clarifications by typing those in under the Questions tab on that control panel. You can do that at any time, and at the end of the hour, as time permits, our presenters will take questions. If we do run out of time, we'll note those questions. They will be recorded in the system, and someone will get back to you following the webinar. And last but not least, I wanted to let everyone know that we will be recording and posting the webinar on Blip TV and running the RSS feed to our media library at fiatech.org. So you will be able to get a copy, which will include both the presentation and audio later this week or early next week from the site. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Gino Cecchetto. Joining the company in 1987, Gino has continued a family tradition by becoming the third Cecchetto superintendent at Block Construction. Through his own initiative and professional training, Gino developed an expertise in a variety of specialized areas, including virtual modeling, educational facilities, sustainable design and construction, and complex electromechanical and biotech projects. He's a journeyman carpenter and a member of the Carpenters Local Number 217. As manager of BIM services, Gino is responsible for the firm's BIM planning and strategy, as well as managing Block's modeling and constructability groups. Currently, Gino is working to shape the future of BIM technology through his collaborative efforts with Tekla on the development of a 3D model-based facilities maintenance and operation tool, which you will all be hearing more about in the coming hour. Joining Gino today is David Oride, who's the modeling engineer at Block, and Andy Dickey from Tekla is also online to answer any questions that may arise. So with that, thank you very much, Gino and David and Andy, for joining us, and let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nicole. All right. Sorry to keep everybody waiting a little bit this morning. My computer was conspiring against me. So we'll go ahead and jump in here. Assuming that my computer is going to work here. My keyboard seems to be dying on me. Here we go. All right. So for the agenda this morning, I'm going to do a real quick overview of Block so that you guys know who's speaking to you. Then we'll talk about our vision for what this tool was going to be. We'll talk about why we think BIM-FM is relevant going forward into the future. We'll talk about the software, the functionality, which is essentially through user-defined attributes, hyperlinked documents, and schedules and filters. And then we'll talk about the future a little bit and whether or not some current trends that people are talking about make sense. And then hopefully, if we've done this correctly, we'll have a little time for questions and answers. Okay, so Block Construction Company, we're a 40-year-old construction manager and general contractor. Certainly one of the most experienced and successful builders in the Bay Area. We pride ourselves on very deep relationships with leading architects and local subcontractors. And we're known for having a very proactive and collaborative management style, which lends very well to BIM technology. We feel that we're the leader in BIM for mid-sized projects in our area, and we've actually been 2 years running, voted best place to work in the Bay Area by the San Francisco Business Times. We were 3rd last year and took the #1 spot this year. Okay, here we go. Something's up. Everything's running really slow here. So our vision, we wanted to enhance sustainability through paperless project handover and eliminate the boxes of paper that just tend to get lost in an archive room. We see it time and time again with our clients. You know, you ask for as-built drawings, and you know, seldom ever can they produce them. If they do, it's usually a very laborious event for them to try to find the stuff. So we wanted to find a way to improve on that situation for them and give them a really good means to access all of that data. We wanted it to be a database of everything known about a facility, learned through the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of that facility. It needed to be easily scalable. You know, we have projects that are very small, you know, and clients that don't have, you know, multiple facilities. And then we have clients that have, you know, 30 or 40 different school campuses. So it was important that the tool could easily be scaled to fit the needs. We felt that it was critical to use the tool used to design, model, coordinate, and manage the construction, to keep all that data, you know, as relevant as possible going forward, you know, into the next construction events that may happen. And, you know, certainly the effort here was to minimize wasted time, errors, and missing data by minimizing model bouncing. You know, if we can do all that in one package and not have to constantly move files around, we're eliminating a lot of opportunities for something to go wrong. We wanted to maximize the value of the data for future construction at the site. I think that's really you know, a really critical point. You know, there's a few different tools out there for facilities maintenance and operations. They're not necessarily all model-based, but they tend to put data, you know, in programs that really aren't going to be all that relevant in the future. So we think the fact that, you know, Tekla is a very robust design and construction-focused package with existing global support is key to the success of the tool. So essentially, our idea here, if you were to look at this, you know, we want to do away with that. That's a very well organized archives room, and most of them don't look that way. But even at that, trying to find data there is difficult. So the idea is to take all that information and put it in a 3D model-based environment, and then take all that data and use it then to assist in the management and maintenance of the facility. So why BIM-FM? It significantly reduces consumed resources through the elimination of paper construction and project handover documents. We've tried to move completely electronic on our projects. We no longer require paper submittals from our contractors. All our contracts are written so that they're to be provided in PDF form, which then makes it easier for us to add that data into our models. Easy visual access to the track data. The whole goal was to have a tool where that maintenance person can look at the model, see that air handler on the roof that they want information about. They don't need to know what model number it is. They don't even necessarily need to know, you know, what unit number it is. They know that it's on building A. They look at the roof on building A. They see the unit. They click on it, and they retrieve all the data that's being tracked. Increased productivity of the maintenance staff. You know, one goal was to eliminate the windshield time. You know, we do a lot of projects for school districts, and they may have, 15 to 30 different school sites. And they complain about the windshield time of their maintenance staff as they drive from site to site. So through the filters that can be set up in this tool, it can really help them to organize where they're going for the day. And if they're going to one site to maintain a unit, they can look and see what other units may be due for maintenance and the next week or 2 weeks, so that they can make a decision, possibly to go to that site and stay at that site and maintain, 6 units for the day versus go there and do one and then drive to another site and do another, and so on. Reduce exposure to additional costs driven by the inability to track and access important data through current paper file means. So boiled down, a good example of this is sites where there's a variety of modernization projects going on. New equipment gets put in, and it's very difficult for maintenance staff to really keep their finger on which units are still in warranty or not. And with this tool, you can easily set up filters to see which units are still covered by warranty or the warranty has expired, so that you don't end up paying for maintenance on a piece of equipment that was still under warranty. Bring construction knowledge forward into maintenance and operations, and then again from maintenance and operations into future construction projects. So I think it's kind of, this is the area where in construction we can start to bring, some of the efficiencies of the manufacturing environment into construction. So all this data, not only the data from the original design and construction, but then what's happened through the life cycle up to that next construction event is all here in a relevant platform that that goes forward into construction very easily because it's the same software that will be used again. And it's certainly insurance against the effects of change in staffing. We've all heard, more than once that, the guy that's been there for 30 years is the, he's the know-all in the maintenance department, and he's the guy that just knows that that valve in the ground is for this. And when those people go away, it can be very difficult for the remaining staff. So with a tool like this, there's a level of protection against that because that knowledge is not trapped in one person's head. And then, of course, if you're making your efforts more efficient and you're not driving from site to site, to maintain one unit here and one unit there, then there certainly is a reduced carbon footprint as well. So, the software obviously is Tekla. This is built on top of Tekla's construction management platform. And the reason why we settled on that after a lot of looking was the fact that it's extremely robust, it's contractor focused, so it allows a level of detail that we can't necessarily get from other programs. It's very feature rich, and that flexibility we feel enables best-in-class customization, and that was a really important aspect for us, to be able to have a level of customization to make sure that we could do anything that any one of our clients requested. Excellent file size management allows for data-rich models. That's really important for this type of a tool. The whole idea here is, pull in as much data as we can and make it accessible. And so to do that, it's important that the program can handle that and that it doesn't become cumbersome and crash. And we certainly have found that to be the case with Tekla, that it's pretty limitless how much data that you can put into the models. And then again, design, construct, coordinate, and manage in the same software, so that we're not bouncing models all over, and then again, so that this information is relevant going forward into construction again. Interoperability Obviously, we're going to get data from a whole variety of different sources, and so it's really key that this tool is interoperable. And I think that's one thing that Tekla does well. You know, they understand what their software doesn't do, and therefore have made it very interoperable. And then, of course, strong customer support. You know, if we're going to offer this to our clients, we feel very strongly that when they're set up with this, that they're going to be able to get a very high level of customer support so that they don't become frustrated. You know, that's, you know, we feel very strongly about the level of service that we provide to our clients, and therefore want to partner with team members that are going to do that in like kind. All right, so so with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David Oride. He's done, you know, the vast majority of the work with Tekla on this. So here's David.
Hey, Gino, before you switch over.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Is that Gino?
Yeah.
Okay, we just have one quick question that's come in. Someone wants some clarification when you say model bouncing, what that means.
Model bouncing is, let's say that we use a tool that only does one thing. So if we wanted to do, say, some clash detection, then we have to go over to this tool. Now, once we see that there's an issue there, if we want to do any modeling to anything, you know, say it's an easy structural solution. You know, say we've got a metal stud wall and we've missed modeling in a framed opening for some ductwork. So if I go to a program that only does clash detection, I find the problem, then I have to go back to my authoring software and I have to fix that problem. And then I have to bring it back into the program that does the clash detection and go look at it again, versus working in a program like Tekla where we can do clash detection and then we can model right there in that program around those other reference models that we've brought in. So our goal is to try to eliminate, you know, that transferring of files back and forth as much as we can.
Great. Thanks, Gino.
Yep. All right, so here we go. Back to David.
Just to add to what Gino was saying a little bit, how we use the software right now for facilities management, we do have to do some modeling in other software, but Tekla also has change management very well. So when you bring in new models, it recognizes the existing pieces by their globally unique IDs, and those don't change, although we've had some problems with that in Revit. But for generally across all platforms, the globally unique IDs never change, so Tekla recognizes the objects that way, and we maintain our functionality. So getting into basic functionality here, typically, so instead of having, you know, the large archive room full of documents, now we have everything electronically, and we have folders that can live on our client servers, and we can hyperlink to those folders where they contain the as-built drawings from the project. Oh, there we go. Okay. So all the documents tracked over the course of construction can also be linked in a similar fashion, such as the RFIs and change orders and whatever's involved with the project. We can also track specific equipment and substantive information based on the client's needs through the user-defined attributes and hyperlinked documents. User-defined attributes are, we can create custom menus and input any amount of data that the owner wants, and we can hyperlink things like instruction manuals and product data like that as well. And their native forms in like PDFs. We can also create maintenance schedules for MEP systems. So when you get into the program, you can run filters and you can find out which ones are under maintenance, maybe for the next month, for the next 2 months. So when they send a maintenance guy out there, you can quickly take care of all the units that are within a certain period instead of having to go back and forth and just fixing them when they break down. And that also goes with custom filtering of model components. And you can also keep track of spare parts that are needed for those equipments. Tekla also has a functionality where you can host your model via the web. So if you're out in the field, like via a tablet, you could be looking live at the model and just be reviewing the model in real time. And I'm going to let Gino talk about Velo Systems. He knows a little bit more about it than I do.
So essentially, Velo Systems creates a portal to easily take information back and forth, from the model for usage out in the field, and also from the field back into the model. And you can through barcode scanning or RFID tag scanning, you could code a piece of equipment and then scan it in the field and be able to pull up the data in the field on that piece of equipment, through the use of, like a PC tablet.
Moving on. These are 3 examples here of basic functionality. We'll get into each one specifically. So for user-defined attributes, running on top of the construction management package in Tekla, we can create our own tabs, as you call them. The first picture there is just basic. The first tab here, just a basic slide for the owner, just showing, that it's their product. They know we're working for them. We can import any number of graphics in there as we want. The second slide is it's pretty basic. It shows just, you can put in whatever you want. We can have drop-down menus, specific dates. That brings up a calendar, just like you'd have on the internet. And you can use all these things to create custom reports and whatnot. As you see on this tab, you can have any number of rows or columns, and it's extremely customizable. So whatever the owner wants to track, you can track. So specifically for this school district, the owner was interested in tracking door hardware, and there's just so many different things that go into it. And you can see we have multiple tabs for door hardware, another tab for specific door and frame, and general opening tab. So yeah, there is a huge amount of data that goes along with this, but it's easy to track via the user-defined attributes.
So the idea here is that, like in this case for this particular district, doors, frames, and hardware is one of the more difficult things for them to keep a handle on. There's a huge amount of maintenance involved around it, and there's so many different components that go into, say, a double door opening like this. So not only the frame and the door type, but then you've got the hinges that are on the door, the panic hardware that's on the door. We've set up tabs here to track the keying of the lock sets, and it's set up to track multiple shear planes. They may have 4 different shear planes in the lock set. One is a site master, one is a district master, one that's specific to the person that has access to that room. So we're tracking, everything that they could possibly need to know about that door opening right here in these tabs. So they can look at that door in the model, click on it, and then bring up all this data. And it gives them the information that they need so that if they need to order a replacement part, they can get the manufacturer's name and the model number of that part so that they can go ahead and place that order without having to go out to the site and physically look at what's there. So as David mentioned, a key component is the reporting. That was one of the early issues that we ran into as we started to realize that, with these different programs that were available, whether it's ArchiCAD or it's Revit, there's this huge amount of data that can be put into the model, but there wasn't any good way to get it back out. In ArchiCAD, we can load it with a ton of different, user-defined fields about a piece of equipment, but there was no way for us to go back and get that easily. We couldn't print a report to harvest the data. We would have to go in, open up the properties of the door, and then you could write down what you wanted. But that wasn't a viable solution for our clients. So one of the key components was that you could easily go in and set up these custom reports and print out the data that you need. So, if a guy's going out to maintain a piece of equipment, he can go in and print a report that gives him all the different things that he's going to have to take with him, the filter, the belts, fuses, whatever, all in one place so he can go out to the warehouse, grab it, and then go out and maintain the piece of equipment. So the second, main means of tracking information is through Hyperlinked Documents. And that can be any type of document. In this case here, this was for Matheson Elementary School, or middle school, excuse me, with the Alum Rock School District. And here, this is a folder structure of all their as-built drawings. And the original goal was to link them by building, but the site just wasn't that clean. The site's old, and there had been so many projects done that touched on multiple buildings that there was no clean way to link drawings specifically to each building. So folders were set up for the site, and then in that folder structure, it breaks it down by architectural, structural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and so forth. So that folder structure is easily accessible from the model. And then, of course, maintenance manuals. It could be any document that you want, but maintenance manuals in general is something that maintenance staff need on a frequent basis. So here, they can easily bring that up by looking at the piece of equipment, clicking on it, opening the manual. It opens up in a PDF format that they can then email or print. Here, this is a electrical panel schedule, and since any type of document can be linked, while this is a written panel schedule, if the owner wanted, you could actually link high-resolution photos of the panel. And then again, this ties in, we'll go through it a little bit later, but this ties in with the custom filtering that would then allow us to see all the load that's on that panel. Not the sexiest of linked documents here, but again, any type of document. So this is some specifics on a plumbing fixture. Again, pretty high maintenance item that maintenance staff will deal with. So they can can easily go get that information here. And then, like I mentioned previously, you know, a very important component of this is that all these hyperlinked documents, you know, they're not, you know, trapped inside this program. They are hyperlinked documents that open in their native program, so you can access them through the model, and then from there you can print and hand off to the maintenance staff in the field. You could email that document to any team member that you wanted to, or if it's a, you know, Excel document or a Word document, or if you're using Microsoft Project for scheduling functionality, you know, for equipment, that document can be opened, modified, saved back to the database. So schedules and filters. Here is an example of the rolling maintenance schedule for these mechanical units. These Airedale units are all in the classrooms, and so the green units, obviously, maintenance is current. The red unit is past due, and then the yellow and orange you can set up, you know, however you want it set up, time-wise for, you know, 2 weeks ahead or a month ahead, you know, before the equipment's due, so that, again, they can make those decisions easily by looking at the site if there's, you know, more than the one unit that they're planning on going to the site to maintain. And then here, looking at a electrical panel schedule and showing the load that's on that panel. So if there's going to be a panel shutdown, they can easily take a look at the model and see, you know, who will be out of air conditioning and heating when they shut that panel down, and also from the user-defined attributes on each of those specific pieces of equipment, it lists the circuit and panel that that equipment is fed from, so you can get that information either way. And then, you know, the future and whether or not it makes sense. Certainly, you know, one aspect that, you know, we get requests from our clients on is to tie trouble ticket systems into this. And, you know, I think someday, you know, that will be a good thing. It can be done today, but I think that to do something on that custom level, it's really only relevant for pretty sophisticated users that are going to be able to maintain that type of a custom integration. And I think for, you know, at least for most of our clients, it's probably best to wait until there's a commercially available solution to do that. And then, of course, the second thing here, and this is just a rendering that we've created. You go to a larger. Oh, sorry, I don't have a larger version of this. So the second here, the building automation and systems integration. You know, my vision at the beginning of this was that we would be able to tie this in to building management systems, so that live in the model, as you looked at a room, that you would see, you know, as you see here, you know, the current room temperature, the set point temperature underneath it, and then those arrows to be able to toggle that temperature up and down live from the model. And I think that someday we'll get there. But, you know, from what I've seen working with our clients, the energy management systems that are out there now typically have a very simple 2D interface that is typically accessible through the web, so that, you know, it's, you know, off hours and somebody's working and they have an issue with the temperature in their room. When they make that maintenance call, the guy that gets paged who's at home can log on and take care of that issue easily online. To me, right now, tying that into a 3D model environment seems like it's unnecessarily complicating things. So I don't think that that's something, at least at this time, that really makes a whole lot of sense to do. I think that in the end, the best success is when things are kept simple. And so at this point in time, we're not really pushing that type of an integration with our clients. Right, and with that, we can go ahead and take some questions and answers, and we've got plenty of time. We've gone through that maybe a little quicker than we should have.
Well, that's all right, Gino, because we've got a lot of questions. So thank you first. That was a very interesting presentation. I'll start at the top. GUIDs are changing very often if you're modifying and replacing objects. Is there any other way to track changes than snapping to the GUID?
I'm going to put you guys on speaker, and I hope that the sound quality is still good. I'm going to go ahead and let David address that, asking about any other way to track changes other than the GUIDs.
Because the globally unique identifiers change so frequently.
They typically shouldn't, depending, well, for most softwares, they typically shouldn't change at all. The only time they do change is if you delete something, add something new in, or just add something new in completely in general. But as long as you maintain the same objects through each update, they should not change.
Okay, great. What is this, or do you know the status of COBie readiness of the Tekla software? Can it implement COBie in its platform, or is it done separately?
That is something that is on my list of things to really get involved in and look into, but I'm going to go ahead and refer that to Andy because he's the right person to talk about that.
Thanks, Gino. Can you hear me, by the way,
Perfect.
since I haven't? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Perfectly. Thank you, Andy.
We do, as Gino alluded to, all the customization capabilities that Tekla has. We've had several users incorporate COBie using the customizations, and then we've even created a customization pack ourselves that's available on our users site called the extranet that you can download, which includes the tabs and the fields like what Gino was showing for his project, as well as some report templates and things like that. So simple answer to the question is yes, and the more complex answer is yes, we did that using the same sort of customization capabilities that that Gino used on his project.
Great, thank you. How does the contractor type in all the information on given products? Isn't this an added cost to the owner?
If it's going on during the course of construction, a lot of that is already tracked. For a case where you have multiple units of the same kind of item, you can easily mass supply that information to all those types of units. So I mean, it is a bit of an added cost, but if you do it during the course of construction, it really doesn't take that much longer to do.
We've looked at this from both sides as essentially offering this solely as a service to do this after the fact. And there's no doubt that obviously there's some time to input the data, although as David said, like in the case of Matheson that you saw here, all those units that are in the room are all the same. So essentially you're putting that data in one time and associating it to all those units, and then only dealing individually with the data that's different for each of those, like the circuit and panel that it's fed from. So it's not nearly as cumbersome as it might appear looking at it.
And I would assume that the benefits outweigh the costs in that later on in the cycle the owner does not have to continue to recapture that information.
Absolutely. I mean, when you factor in the amount of hours that they spend trying to dig out data, if they even still have it in them to try to go. I mean, most of these districts, like the Alum Rock School District here, they didn't even bother to go into their archive room. And so when we hired on with them as their program manager and we started talking to them about this, you know, they opened the door to this file room that, you know, looked like the closet you see, you know, in the commercials. You know, it's like the joke, the guy opens a closet and he gets buried underneath stuff that falls out. I mean, it was just a complete mess. And we put somebody in there for 6 weeks to go through, sort it all out, you know, break it down by DSA file number, get it all scanned in so that we could then make all that data accessible through this system. So now all they need to know is what site that they want drawings for, and they go to that folder, and boom, there it is. And you know, they can access that folder structure either through the models, or if they know where they're going, even for a specific document for a piece of equipment, if they know what it is that they want, they don't necessarily have to open the model to get there either. They can go straight into that folder structure and go to the folder that houses that document and grab it from there.
Great, thank you. Next question, where do the geometric models come from? Does the designer provide these or the manufacturer?
It's all over the map. In this case, the implementation at Alum Rock is kind of scaled based on what's happening at each site. So Masson that you saw here, that was a pretty simple HVAC upgrade. The site had been a heating-only site for many, many years, and being in the heart of San Jose, they wanted air conditioning. So new units were installed that are heating and cooling units, and then there was some associated electrical upgrades along with that to support the new load. Because there wasn't any like significant building modernization or anything going on, there really was no modeling to speak of being done here. So to keep the cost down as much as possible, this implementation started with the architect's SketchUp model that they had done of the site. And then we brought that into ArchiCAD, did a little cleanup, exported it as an IFC. The specific mechanical units that are in here, David modeled those and brought them in. If there are models available of the pieces of equipment, then we can certainly take those and use it. We don't need to create the model ourselves.
Well, I apologize for this. If you all can hear me, I seem to be having some audio problems and can't seem to hear the others speaking. So I think at that point, I want to go ahead and thank very much Gino and David and Andy. There were several questions that we didn't get to. We will follow up with those folks after this webinar. I want to remind everyone that we have recorded this and we will have it posted on the FIATech website later this week. Apologies for this audio interruption. And thanks again to our speakers, and have a great day. Thanks.